Hello, I hope you're doing well. I'm Milad Kambari and welcome to another tutorial. In this tutorial, I want to teach you how to use AI to first generate this electric coffee grinder model, then remodel it, and finally, using MassFX, place some coffee beans inside the glass chamber like this. In this process, the base model is initially created with AI itself. Just keep in mind that we're going to remodel it. We're not going to retopologize it. These are two different things. So let's start the tutorial together. Now, to convert this image into a 3D model, I'm using an AI-based model. In fact, I'm going to use a website called Meshy, which is one of the best sites we can use to convert our images into 3D models. So I click Image to 3D, upload my image, it automatically detects what the image is, writes a prompt for it, and we click the Generate button. We wait a few moments for our model to generate and be created. It gives us 4 alternatives. We choose the best one from our point of view, the one that's most complete. We don't need texture, so we choose the no texture mode. We also can't change the rest of the parameters because our version is the free version, and we click confirm. After clicking confirm, once the model is ready, we rotate the model a bit and we can import this model into 3ds Max and use it there. Don't forget, we're going to remodel this model. We're not going to retopologize it. Keep that in mind. So I click download and import the model into 3ds Max as an FBX file. Since I'm going to remodel the model, this acts like a kind of blueprint for us. It works like a 3-view blueprint for us. So I slice through the middle of the model like this and delete one side so I have only half because later I want to mirror it using symmetry. I use cap to close off the left side and then start drawing a box. As I said, I want to remodel it, meaning I'll use it as a source and remodel it. At this stage, I start adding segments to my box one by one. Here, I sped up the video because the process is already familiar to those who do modeling, and at this point there's nothing too unusual in it until we get further and start the part about creating the coffee beans using AI and also working with MassFX. So for now, I'm going to put a music track over this section, and let's watch the rest of the process together in a time-lapse style and move forward. Now, at this stage, after finishing our model, we need to extract the glass part. I make a copy and delete the top and bottom parts. I don't need them. I only want the middle cylinder. I close the bottom of the model so it's not hollow, preventing the coffee beans from falling through. And definitely at this stage, we need to apply a turbo smooth to make our cylinder smooth. I also add a segment to the bottom to reduce it slightly. And at this stage, apply a normal modifier to flip the normals of the mesh. This flipping ensures the inside surface of our object is recognized properly, meaning the inner face of the object is flipped and the normal is inverted, so the inside surface is correctly recognized. When we later want to pour our coffee beans into this cylinder, if we haven't fixed the flip, the software won't even recognize it as a cylinder. The beans will fall outside. But when we correct the normals, the enclosed space is properly recognized. Now let's go back to Meshy. This time, instead of using image to 3D, we'll use text to 3D, meaning we give it a prompt. For example, we ask it to generate a coffee bean. After writing the prompt, we again click the Generate button. The only difference this time is that we request textures after the beans are generated. We select the good-looking models one by one, confirm them, and let it begin generating textures. I've already created one before, but I'll create 3 more beans so we have a variety. And at the end, for example, I made 3 different beans. We download these models and import them into 3ds Max. Don't forget, every bean you bring into 3ds Max, after importing it, make sure to rename it. If you don't rename it, the next model that's imported will overwrite the previous one. It kind of replaces the previous model, but if you change the name, that won't happen. Now I bring all 3 models into this section, and after I've brought in all 3, I want to place them into my black cylinder, which is actually this glass cylinder. I scale them down and give them a relatively standard scale for coffee beans. Make sure to collapse the model, convert it to editable poly. Make sure to do this before using MassFX. I select one of the beans, go to the Animation tab, Phoenix, Rigid Body. We need 2 parameters here. One is set selected as dynamic and the other is set selected as static. Dynamic is for our falling coffee bean model, the one with animation. Static is for our fixed model, the one acting as a container or bowl for us. Okay, now I select the coffee bean and apply dynamic, and I set the generate form option to vertices. Then for the cylinder, I set it as a static object and set its form to original. Original means it takes the actual shape of our cylinder. Now let me show you a tool parameter. Go again to MassFX greater than Utilities greater than Tools. Tools is where we can create a preview of the animation. I click the preview button, the bean falls, it's fine and there's no issue. It lands nicely inside our cylinder. I go back and say now I have to apply MassFX for the other coffee beans as well. Same as before, set them as dynamic following the exact same process. I repeat this again for the next bean, go to Rigid Body and select Vertex. Now watch, I press play, run a preview, all 3 beans fall together and there's no problem. Let's go back and move on to copying. Before we dive into copying, I want to explain this part more because it's important. I want to explain the 2 parameters, inflation and vertices. Let's go into Max again and bring in the coffee bean model one more time. This coffee bean, by default, let me remove its MassFX modifier. When it receives animation, it should naturally fall on top of each other, right? That's how it should work. But usually it doesn't work that way. They intersect or overlap, and the simulation shapes aren't recognized correctly. Our model's body isn't detected properly. So we use something called inflation. In the Animation tab, MassFX, Rigid Body, Set Selected. Let's bring that in again. What does inflation do? Inflation acts like an offset. If you set its value to 1, it basically says, this is my main model, meaning the models won't penetrate each other. It's a virtual shell, schematic, not visible in the render, and it functions like an offset. Okay, so when we copy, it sort of behaves like this. Now it's like two models are placed on top of each other, but what actually happens is that we see this. The virtual shell is layered over the original, but this is what we visually get. So a value of 1 is too much, set it to 0.5 or even 0.3, not too much, not too little. That way, when they stack like here, they won't pop out of the glass body unnaturally. The next point, okay, I understand what offset is, but how do I know what the base form of the model should be? That depends on the number of vertices. The lower this number, the less accurate the generated form is. Let's set it to 1. Now it doesn't resemble our base model much. The virtual mesh, the placeholder, doesn't match our shape well, but if you raise the number, it's like increasing the segments, the vertices. The higher the value, the more it tries to follow the actual model's shape. Let's try 256. See how much closer it got? Sure, the inflation is a bit much, but still, you get the idea. So having that virtual shell resemble our actual model and follow it closely is very important. It makes the animation of them stacking more natural and visually cleaner. Let's go back to copying. Now I make a copy of these models. Let's have a duplicate of all 3 models, and at this stage, place the copies randomly inside the scene. When they fall, they'll give off a more natural feel. I also adjust their position slightly so they align with the axis of the glass cylinder. So I take a copy. Okay, now I'm just testing to see if it's aligned correctly or not. I make lots of copies of the coffee beans because they'll fall and pile up densely. At this stage, I hit play again. It's okay. Now, if some of them stick out of the glass body, don't worry. When we move to the final model, we can simply scale them down a bit. Just wait a moment. The animation will finish and all the beans will drop nicely into the jar. Now what we need to do is change the end frame from 100 to 300. This gives our animation more time so that the models fall and settle properly. Then we bake it. Baking means the models retain their animation. They get keyframes. And through those keyframes, we can control exactly where the animation ends. So this is where the actual generate process happens. Before this, it was more like a preview. But now with baking, it becomes the final generated result. After this is done and we hit play and now the beans have fallen into the glass, we collapse them. Collapsing means all the animation is baked into the mesh. No need to rerun simulations or click play again. It's now a fixed state. I place the baked model inside the glass, scale it down slightly so it doesn't touch the glass wall too much. Looks okay, I think it's fine, and finally we'll apply a glass material. Now for the glass material, I'm just using the default physical material in basic 3ds Max. But of course, if you're using render engines like V-Ray or Corona, you can apply much better materials. For testing purposes, I'll just use one of the glass presets in physical material and assign it to the cylinder model. That's it. Its only purpose is to help us see the coffee beans inside more clearly. I select the model and apply the glass material. And that's it for the glass and the nicely visible coffee beans. This was the tutorial. I hope the information I prepared and shared with you in this video was helpful, and that you'll be able to use AI-generated models in your own 3D modeling workflows.